What's going on, horror fans? It's Foos here. Today, we got a fun one. We're going to talk about Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. Now, this one's a pretty divisive one. People either seem to love this movie or hate this movie. But let's dive into it, see where we fall. This one will be released in March of 1985, written by Martin Katrasser and directed by Danny Steinman, who, interestingly enough, kind of got his start in the porn industry, which some folks would tell you had a pretty noticeable influence on how this movie kind of looked and felt. This one would again feature, though, the awesome music of Harry Manfredini, who, again, at this point, sound is just synonymous with this franchise. We get a performance in this one by John Shepard as Tommy Jarvis. Dick Wyan would play Roy, aka Jason, aka Royson, and Shavar Ross would portray an awesome character in this one by the name Reggie, aka Reggie Reckless. This one would take place as far as events go years after what happened in the fourth film. Tommy's much older now, and definitely very much affected by what happened in the fourth film. In and out of these different facilities appears. He's being transferred at this point at the beginning of the movie to this Pinehurst Youth Academy, which seems kind of like a little halfway house place for troubled teens and kids that have just kind of got some stuff going on. And not long after he gets there, though, we have this situation where there's an attack between two of the people that are living there. It's like a brutal murder. And not long after that, it seems to kind of trigger the start of this whole series of Jason style killings, let's just say. And Tommy, all the while, is kind of being conflicted. He's having a lot of problems processing whether or not this is just his hallucinations, whether what's really going on. He's definitely struggling with the whole Jason thing. Ultimately, we would learn, though, that this is not Jason, and it's in fact Roy, or I'm going to call him Royson again. It's the ambulance driver from earlier in the film who just so happens to be the father of the victim of this whole initial attack that happens at this facility.
Come on, Roy. Get your hands dirty.
So, yeah, a lot of people pissed off by the fact that it's not Jason, and kind of has a similar sort of vibe with the way that people attack it as what Halloween 3 gets with no Michael Myers. But let's dive into the good and the bad about this movie and kind of see how we feel about this one. For me, positives, first thing I'm pointing out is Roy. Yeah, there I said it. I don't care. I'm not going to be sorry for it. I love Roy. And I know it's not Jason, but still wearing a Jason mask, still wielding a fucking machete, and still handling his business. And does he ever handle his business in this movie? I don't know what the hell the kill count ends up being, but Roy knocks some motherfuckers off in this movie. And there's also, even though it's kind of neutered, it seems like, and we'll get to that in a minute here, but I do still like the creativity of some of the kills, and I find that to be a pretty cool point. And also, he's just a pretty fucking intimidating figure. Like, when he's hunting Pam down towards the end of this movie, he's handling it with a purpose. I mean, he's coming after her, and he cuts an intimidating figure, even though he's not actually Jason. But kind of along that same sort of a line, another positive that I'll point out about this one is some of the uniqueness of some of the kills that we get. In particular, probably one of my favorite sequences in the whole Friday the 13th franchise as far as kills go happens in this movie. We have this couple that, early on in the film, they get caught kind of, having some fun over on some of the neighbor's property. And then fast forward to a little later in the film, they're going to dip off instead of doing laundry and end up in the woods doing what teenagers do when they're left alone, it seems like in these movies. And one of them afterwards goes off the guy to take a piss and leaves his girlfriend behind. She lays down on this blanket. She's just kind of got her eyes closed. She's chilling. Opens her eyes for a second to realize that Royson is standing over top of her with these hedge trimmers, and he stabs her down into both of her eye sockets with the hedge trimmers and chops them motherfuckers. That's fucked up, man. Royson's a cold motherfucker. Then he disappears for a minute, waits till Homeboy comes back, and he walks up thinking that his girlfriend's just rolled over, facing the other direction, goes to approach her, rolls her over and realizes, oh shit, she's fucked up. Something happened here. He just goes backing up kind of in a hurry, bumps into a tree. That's when Royson throws this strap device he's got going on around his fucking eyes and proceeds to tighten that sumbitch until it snaps, cutting into this dude's face to the point where it fucking killed him. Again, Royson, you're a cold motherfucker. But yeah, one of my favorite sequences in the Friday the 13th franchise, period. And it didn't even take Jason to do it. So, hey, that's why we respect Roy. Another one that's kind of cool, and then you don't see a whole lot, again, in this, but just the idea of what's happening is pretty fucking badass. But, we have these guys that are broken down on the side of the road, and Royson ends up picking both of them off. And when one of them turns around, he basically gets a fucking road flare shoved down his throat. That's, again, that's pretty cold. So
Pete.
say what you want about Roy. Royson handled business. But yeah, those are positives for sure. Another thing that definitely is a positive in this movie is our boy Reggie Reckless.
Me, Reggie the Reckless. No spider would scare me.
This kid is awesome. I mean, throughout the movie, we see him once he gets to the facility because he's there. He's the grandfather, or his grandfather, I should say, works there. So he's just kind of hanging around this facility a lot. So you get to see him interacting with different characters that are there, as well as starting to develop a little bit of a relationship with Tommy. So, and he's linked up with Pam at the end of the movie. So he's a constant throughout this movie. And goes off to visit his brother at one point, who's another, pretty hilarious character. Some funny interactions there. Anytime I go into a porta potty at this point, I have to use the bathroom if I ever have to. I always hear that little fucking song that he's singing himself in there.
Ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh.
But then when it gets to the point at the end of the movie, he's ready to handle fucking business in his own right. He goes into that fucking barn, gets on that tractor, and when he comes fucking rolling out there, he's ready to fuck Royson up. I mean, he's got this little determined ass look on this thing. He's just going to town on that. He's ready to run that motherfucker over. So Reggie Reckless is an awesome part of this movie and one of the better characters throughout this franchise as far as, sub characters go and all that. But those are definitely what I see as positives on this one. As far as negative stuff goes, though, kind of alluded to it earlier. This movie felt neutered a little bit on the sense of the violence, blood, and all of that type of stuff. Very scaled back. Didn't show a whole lot in a lot of the sequences, and I'm sure it all boiled down to trying to get a rating. But I feel like it ultimately kind of hurts the movie a little bit. I would like to see a little bit more, especially in a movie where you do have this guy in Roy that you know put off the vibe well enough. Yeah, I feel like this would have been a believable one where you would could have had him just going balls to the wall in some of these sequences a little bit more and showed a little bit more of the good stuff, so to speak. But hey, it is what it is. We got what we got. Still a lot of enjoyable stuff in it. Still, I managed to get one of my favorite sequences out of it, so I can't complain too much. Another negative, though, I would say these two characters just I feel like were unnecessary. I mentioned earlier how we had our two teenagers were trespassing and all of that. Well, in that process, that's where we see our kind of hillbilly characters of Junior and Ethel.
We're all crazy.
You tell him, Ma! Ethel, these kids weren't doing.
Doing? You think I don't know what those two perverts were doing in my yard?
Say it like you mean it, Ma!
Would you shut the fuck up?
And they serve the purpose of having that part of the storyline interjected about these teenagers trespassing. But I mean, outside of anything else that they do, these characters seem completely fucking unnecessary in this movie. Like they just wanted to have some haha like funny element to the movie, so they put these goofy hillbilly characters in it. The only redeeming factor to either of them is that you get the moment where Junior is on the fucking dirt bike throwing his little temper tantrum, just riding around the fucking yard. And that's when he gets decapitated. Royson just puts the machete out there and basically chops his fucking head off. So that's that's a pretty funny moment. But but outside of that, I feel like it's completely useless two characters in this movie, and all they really do is just provide a little unnecessary, in my opinion, haha moments. But yeah. Last negative that I'll point out about it, though, comes at the end of the movie, and it's the way we decided to end this movie with the whole Tommy Jarvis is Jason now thing. Not really a big fan of that. And, Not sure if it's just because I've seen the other movies now, and I know that as soon as you start watching 6, you realize really quickly that Tommy Jarvis was never Jason, never became Jason. That part's just kind of there. And I realize these movies are made by different people, yada yada yada, at different times. I get all that shit, but it just seems like a dumb ending to a movie unless they knew damn well like the folks that wrote this and made this one were ready and geared up to make the sequel imminently and had some direction they were planning to go with this. I feel like it's just a stupid way to end the movie unless you know you're getting some type of payoff for it at some point or another. But yeah, I'm not really a big fan of the whole Tommy's Jason now cliffhanger at the end of this movie. Overall, though, I am a fan of this movie. I am one of the people that will definitely argue its defense. I'm in camp. Friday the 13th Part 5 is a good movie. Guess it kind of has a lot of similar nostalgia though for me, being fair. So I may be looking at it through rose-colored glasses a bit here. Much like I talk about Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 having that nostalgic quality because it was one of the movies that my family had on VHS, so early access to seeing it. I saw it a lot, all that good stuff. This was in that same camp. So those two sequels got a lot of watch time out of me. So I'm very fond of these two. But all that being said, I mean, there's a reason why I keep wanting to watch them too, though. I mean, I feel like it is still one of the good sequels out of this franchise. So I think people just give it too much grief because it's not Jason and it's Roy. But look, I'm just gonna say I'm kind of tired of that argument in all honesty, because if you really stop and think about how the whole franchise fucking started, it wasn't Jason, it was his mom, it was Pamela. So her whole narrative was what? Her child was harmed, let drown, whatever. So she what? Wanted to take revenge, right? So what the fuck happens here in this movie? Roy's kid gets killed. He wants fucking revenge. It's an homage in a way, if you think about it like that, to the old original fucking movie. I don't see anything to dislike about a one-off sequel where we don't get Jason for one time around, but instead we get an awesome fucking killer in Roy who goes and fucking handles business. Just saying, I think people need to get off the just because it's not Jason train. Give this movie its flowers. But for me, this is definitely a fun one, though, in all seriousness. If I had to rate this one, it's a 4 out of 5 for me. One of my favorites in the franchise for sure. And yeah, that's really all I got on this one, y'all. But if you've all been sticking around for this long, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Like, comment, all that good stuff. Let me know what you think about this one. Check out some of the other videos on the channel, as always. Share them with some friends that you got. And we appreciate all the help, as always. We'll see you on the next one.